Hello, everybody. This is Love from Above with your Sibling Spirit Guides. I'm Maureen, and this is my brother.
Hey everyone, hey Maureen, this is Brian.
Hey, Brian, can you believe this? On this podcast, we share channelings we receive from star beings, ascended masters, mythical beings who really exist, and occasionally our ancestors. And boy, today's topic is one that I love: the Watcher's interactions with historical figures. You know, Brian, I've always been fascinated by history. I actually wanted to major in history, but our mother talked me out of it. But it's always interesting to uncover the real history of this planet. Don't you agree?
Totally, yeah, it is. It is interesting, and these have come up, from the beginning, and we've talked about some of this in the past. I mean, interactions with past presidents, but this we're even going back, farther than that. So it's you know always interesting to learn about history, and then also they talk about the real history and their interactions with different people. So I do find this really fascinating.
And you know what else is interesting is so many of these important historical figures, whether they be scientists or artists or politicians, they have interactions with like the ascended masters, and you know what I mean? So it just goes to show you that all of this effort is not singular, it's a group effort. So that I find fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll get into the first topic was came to us almost a year ago, January 28th of 2024 from the Watchers, and it's on Joan of Arc. So it says, within the history of your people, we've visited your planet on many times. Our missions, our excursions are always of a peaceful nature. We're a group of gentle, loving souls united with one purpose to explain the history of the one creator. We watch over all life forms. Our task was given at the dawn of creation. We hover over any beings. They call for our blessings. We watch and tend carefully the garden of life, which continually blooms. Um, you notice as the watchers, however, that does not reveal our true intent. So then it goes on to say that the indoctrination is complete within your closed universe. It's our goal to enlighten those willingly listen to the truth. The truth shall set you free is a beloved saying within your culture. Joan of Arc was a transitional figure in your history as she was the first to embody this true nature in the feminine form as a warrior. The combination of the masculine and feminine brought an idealized status to her being. If you could see her now, she would be aglow with a fire within. This glow can burn hot or cold. There are warriors who use the fire within for destructive purposes. The same is true for your so-called government and its continual expression of power through military force. These expressions shall weaken as the dominant love force expands throughout the universe. So a lot to unpack there, but what's your biggest takeaway from that, Maureen?
Well, didn't I just think this whole fire within is very interesting because I mean, I don't didn't Joan of Arc, didn't she burn on the stake?
Right. Yeah.
Um, so I don't know, just that fire within. And then of course I always love what they refer to like our so-called government, our so-called government. So yeah, it's interesting. And so for those of you who are listening, this is from the Watchers. And gosh, now I would say, right, Brian, these are the people that we hear through from the most. And they, their purpose is to kind of be like a living Akashic records that they record everything that's going on at all times through all realms of existence.
Yeah,
So
and in fact, they've mentioned in the past, right, that even our, our governments use them to look at historical records or something. Didn't they mention that recently? Or I know I've read that.
I'm sure they did. It's just, but it was our so-called government or the real government. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
who knows? Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, a very fascinating history with Joan of Arc. I mean, there's just a lot. It makes you ask more questions and it makes you understand, like, what is this fire within? Um, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes, when you find out new information, it doesn't answer the question, but begins new questions, right?
Yeah, and that's what they're talking about. The truth shall set you free. But then I don't feel like I got exactly what I mean, they said they work with Joan of Arc, but I don't understand. They never really said like what was the truth that about her that we don't know. I mean, I don't that just other than that she worked with them. But
Right.
um yeah, I guess it's always just keep an open mind and you know try not to plug into the news too much because we know it's not really accurate or the real news. So anyway,
And I'll tell you what my big takeaway from all of the channeling that we've done through this time period is just like that I'm not acting on my own. It's like I'm part of a team that's working together and I think you can see that with the watchers talking to us about the historical figures because these people who, made a big impact on our history, they weren't working alone. They were working with, star beings, ascended masters, all of these beings were assisting them. So, yeah, we're never alone.
yeah, that's a common theme. Not only that, like a lot of celebrities and successful people in entertainment, um, political figures and stuff are, you know, definitely, in contact with those above to receive divine guidance on their field of expertise. So it is a common theme that we've seen. So not to take anything away from any of them, but it's that that there is that type of help for anyone that asks for it. It's really.
Yeah, I was telling Brian I'm just finished Cher's autobiography and as a child, I can't remember if it was Jesus or an angel, but she recorded this thing that where she saw, I can't remember, it was either Jesus or an angel. And she said, I never told anybody, but it was very real. And she said, too bad I didn't because I could be Saint Cher. But,
Yeah,
but
awesome.
yeah, so yeah, we'll continue with some more historical figures. This came from the Watchers again on February 8th of 2024. We come forth now, we continue with the correct history of your beloved blue planet. We wish to correct misperceptions that have been planted in your historical works. So isn't that interesting? Misperceptions have been planted in our historical works. Our true name has come forth in times past through leaders you recognize as great ones. We shall discuss the assertion of power of the one known as Genghis Khan. This being was indeed contacted by the Brotherhood to conduct initial forays into the expansion of light bodies. However, this being asserted the power given to him in a rage and a fury, which is a cautionary tale for those who wish to assert the glory for themselves rather than for the greater good. To work towards the greater good is always the goal. We learned from that mistake and were cautious, spending centuries without contact of the human realms. Other great leaders that we assisted had great reverence. We worked with Alexander the Great and Aristotle in the same time period. These two stellar luminary beings were bright and shining lights. They readily accepted new information and spread it easily. We also worked with Joan of Arc, who was our first foray into the feminine form, which was a pleasurable experience for both parties. So again, we have Joan of Arc. So yeah, what do you think about all that?
Yeah, and It's the same thing that correct the misperceptions. And the earlier they said that indoctrination is complete within your closed universe. So it's interesting how, you know, again, we've been indoctrinated with not the real truth of the planet, but not really sure what that is. But it is interesting. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a consistent theme. Genghis Khan, I mean, you know, this is going way back, right? I think it is in 1100s. After looking him up, and Alexander the Great and Aristotle. So just pretty amazing that they've been consistently working with beings from Earth, is for a very long time. And um, yeah, I thought I love this sort of stuff. I would love more details to know, exactly what is the truth about the planet that we haven't been told, but I'm sure we're going to get to it eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's probably because when I channel, like honestly, like, geez, I really usually can't go by past 10 or the 10 or 15-minute mark. And it's hard to describe what it feels like after that. It feels like I'm being like stretched. And it's like literally I can't I always say like I'm coming up to my edge because it's like I really can't do anymore.
Hmm.
So we have to get this in bits and pieces, but it's fascinating stuff. And the thing I want to mention too is you don't have to be Joan of Arc. I mean, they're happy to work with anybody. Like you don't have to be Beyonce or Joan of Arc or Taylor Swift or Edison or Aristotle. Like it's forming that partnership that's important. And it's important regardless of where you are in your position in life, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So this last one you pulled up is of real interest to me, and this is of Gilgamesh. Okay, for those of you who may not have known, the Epic of Gilgamesh, Brian, I read this Epic of Gilgamesh about 5 years ago, and then I actually went to London to look at the tablets that are in the British Museum about the Epic of Gilgamesh. But it's considered one of the oldest stories on the planet. Have you ever read the Epic of Gilgamesh, Brian?
No, I've heard of Gilgamesh in different stories, but I'm not an expert, so you should definitely take this one. Yeah, but this is going way back. This is right,
Yeah,
like
this
2000 BC, isn't it?
yeah, this is really, really, and it's like again, it's considered one of the oldest stories in the world. And the stories were found in Nineveh, which is in present day Iraq. But all of these, they're called the Neo-Assyrian tablets, and the British Museum has got, I don't even know, thousands of them. And you can go see them, and they are life size. So anyway, I read the Epic of Gilgamesh, and then I went to London to see it. So anyway, this is from November 14th, 2024. We are the Watchers. We come forth now to regale you with the correct history, the correct stories of the foundation of your loving planet. We laugh that humans believe that contact with star beings are rare. Ha 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 ha. It is frequent as you are speaking with your beloved. It is as frequent as you speaking with your beloved partner or darling daughter. These communications are ongoing and have been since the existence of your space-time continuum. We shall open the field and explain something that hasn't been shared before and is important. You may find this tale wondrous, but we shall continue with the ongoing saga known as Gilgamesh. There are other stories that are similar in their details. That's what humans fail to consider, that there is more than one hero or heroine. Is anyone's experience truly unique? Are you the only person to experience love, to have heartache, to work hard? No, these experiences are universal. Gilgamesh is a saga of Gilgamesh, but one journey that has been repeated through the ages. Your master Thoth has been instrumental in beginning many new worlds. This has been his charge to bring forth a light into the places of deep darkness. He has ignited the flames of hundreds, thousands of generations of life forms. His tasks go unrewarded by the general populace, but he does not mind. So there you go. There's not just one hero. You know, which is kind of, do you remember when we got the information about Noah? They said the same thing. Like Noah was not the only person to survive the flood. There were many people who survived the flood, but kind of like his story took hold and is representative of the whole, which makes sense. Like just not one person is going to survive the flood. There were a few people who survived the flood, but Noah's is the one that we remember.
Yeah, very true. And it was just like you're saying, and anybody can experience this type of connection to those above, like from the Watchers. So anyway, but yeah, it's interesting. And yeah, of course, Toth is as we've talked to on this podcast, we mentioned him a number of times. He's very modest. What he says, it's what was his? He has a great quote. It's not the
Yeah, early on we were going to do so. I mean, I just feel so honored. This whole podcast started because Brian and I had a mystical event, a connection with Thoth. And I was going to do one of our early podcasts. I was going to do an episode on Thoth because he's also known as Hermes Trismegistus, and was in Atlantis, and he's such an interesting figure to me. And
Egypt.
yeah. And he came to me, he built the Great Pyramid, and he came to me and he said, it the podcasts are about the message, not about the messenger.
Yeah, that's it. I love that. Yeah,
And that, Brian, that's really been our goal going through this is that it's about the message. It's not about you and I and our
right.
journeys.
Totally.
It's about the message. It's not about the messenger. And yeah, so super grateful and always honored to hear from Thoth or about Thoth. So yeah.
So yeah, it just proves. I mean, Gilgamesh. I mean, it's thousands, over 3,000 years old, and so it's interesting how the Watchers have. Uh, and again, they don't even like going that name, but anyway, there's been beings that are, helping divinely guide um, humans on the earth since its inception. So I think it's amazing. All right, so the closing, this was pretty recent from September. So we did publish a podcast on Napoleon, another historic figure, and this is about that. So from September 15th, they said, we are delighted to engage with a podcast on Napoleon. These wise words shall engage many, for Napoleon offered wisdom for many ages. There are other examples we can give on historical figures who worked with like-minded beings like ourselves, for this is rarely unusual. Anyway, that's an interesting way to say it. But anyway, just like you said, like we've been saying. So I thought that summed up this episode perfectly, and we hope you enjoyed it.
And you know what else I find funny is that we have always some of our most devoted listeners are the ascended masters, the star beings. You know what I mean? Because we'll do an episode and then we hear from them, or we're preparing an episode and they're like, "Oh, include this."
Yeah, right.
So Brian and I are doing this, and is anybody listening? Well, we know we've got, we know we have important listeners. So it's just funny. It's really, really funny. So anyway, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll be back next week with a new podcast.
Bye, everyone.